All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going microscopic to explore the one thing, the only thing that connects every single living organism on this planet. We're talking about the fundamental unit of life. I know, it sounds like the start of a really weird joke, right? But the answer to this question, it unlocks one of the most profound concepts in all of science. Seriously, stick with me, because by the time we're done here, you're going to see the world and yourself in a completely new way. So, where does the story even start? Well, like a lot of huge scientific breakthroughs, it all began with someone just being curious. We're talking way back in 1665. A scientist named Robert Hooke pointed a microscope he built himself at a super thin slice of cork. And what he saw? Wow, it was about to change biology forever. He saw this pattern, kind of like a honeycomb, made up of all these tiny empty boxes. He called them cells, which is just Latin for a little room. And you gotta understand, this was a massive deal. For the first time ever, someone was realizing that living things weren't just solid stuff. They were built from these separate tiny parts. Just one simple observation that opened up an entire world we never even knew existed. But Hooke's discovery of these little rooms, that was really just the first step. It wasn't an overnight thing. It actually took almost 200 more years, with scientists all over building on each other's work to turn that one observation into one of the most important theories in biology. So let's follow the breadcrumbs, right? A few years after Hooke, another scientist, Leeuwenhoek, looks at a drop of pond water and sees entire living organisms, tiny single cells just swimming around. Wild. And from there, the idea just exploded. By the 1830s, a couple of guys, Schleiden and Schwann, confirmed that, yep, both plants and animals were made of cells. The final, crucial piece of the puzzle clicked into place in 1855, thanks to Virchow. He's the one who made the profound declaration that every single cell has to come from another cell that already existed. And all of that work, all those discoveries came together to form what we now call cell theory. It's built on three main ideas. Pillar 1, all living things are made of cells. Simple enough. Pillar 2, the cell is the absolute basic unit of life. And pillar 3, cells can only come from other cells. And this is the key, you guys. This theory connects everything, from a giant elephant to the tiniest bacterium. It's the grand unifying theory of biology. Okay, so now we know what a cell is. Let's actually take a peek inside. And forget that little room idea. A much better way to think about a cell is like a bustling, microscopic city, a metropolis where every single part has a very specific and crucial job to do. Think about any city. It's got to have borders, right? Something that says this is inside the city and that's outside. And that border controls what comes in and what goes out. Well, a cell is exactly the same. That border control for the cell, it's called the plasma membrane, and it's not some big, dumb wall. Nope, it's a smart, flexible barrier. The scientific term is selectively permeable, which is really just a fancy way of saying it acts like a bouncer at a super exclusive club. It decides exactly which molecules get in and which ones have to stay out. All right, what's next in our city tour? Well, every city needs a city hall, right? A central command center where the master blueprints for the entire city are kept safe. This is headquarters, where all the big decisions get made. And in the cell, that's the nucleus. It is the city hall. Inside, it holds the most important thing the cell has, its DNA. These are the master blueprints for literally everything the cell is and everything it will ever do. The nucleus directs all the action, from the normal daily grind to the super important job of making new cells. But, a city can have the best blueprints in the world, but without power, it's just a ghost town. You need power plants running around the clock, generating all the energy needed to keep the lights on and the factories running. So let me introduce you to the mitochondria. You've probably heard of them. They're famous for being the powerhouses of the cell, and for good reason. These amazing little organelles take the food the cell consumes and turn it into an energy molecule called ATP. The easiest way to think about ATP is like cash. It's the energy currency that pays for just about everything that happens in the cell. Okay, our city's got borders, a city hall, and power. What else does it need? Well, it needs industry. You need factories to actually make stuff, and you need a postal service to get that stuff where it needs to go. Inside the cell, this is handled by a really cool two-part system. First, you have the endoplasmic reticulum. We just call it the ER.
Think of the ER as the factory floor. It's where essential things like proteins and fats get built. Then you've got the Golgi apparatus. This is the cell's post office. It takes the products from the ER, sorts them, packages them up, and ships them out. It's an incredibly efficient little production line.
Now, while the basic layout is pretty similar, not all of these microscopic cities are designed the exact same way. If you compare a plant cell to an animal cell, you'll spot some pretty big differences. Plant cells have this tough, rigid outer cell wall that gives them structure. They also usually have one giant central vacuole, which is kind of like a huge storage tank. And, super importantly, they have plastids, like chloroplasts. Those are basically tiny solar panels that let them make their own food from sunlight. Animal cells, they don't have any of that stuff.
So, we've taken a tour of our amazing cell city. But what happens when the city needs to get bigger? Or when old parts wear out and need to be replaced? A cell can't just, build a new neighborhood. It has to do something much more incredible. It has to copy itself completely.
I mean, just stop and think about this for a second. Every single one of us, you, me, we all started out as just one single cell. So how in the world do you go from one tiny cell to the trillions of cells that make up a whole person? The answer is this really elegant process of multiplication. That process is called mitosis. And here's how it works, in a nutshell. First, a mother cell gets ready by making a perfect, exact copy of all its DNA blueprints. Then, once the copy is made, the cell just splits right down the middle. And poof, you have two new daughter cells that are completely identical. This one process, this is how you grow, how your body heals a cut, and how you replace millions of old cells every single day. It's happening inside you right now.
Okay, so let's bring it all full circle. Back to that question we started with. What do you, an onion, and a bacterium all have in common? By now, you know the answer. It's the cell.
And this right here is the big takeaway. A cell isn't just a brick in the wall of life. No way. It's the brick, the builder, the whole construction company, and the finished city all rolled into one. It is the absolute smallest package that has everything it needs, all the machinery and all the instructions, to be considered alive.
But I want to leave you with one last thing to chew on. A cell, as we've seen, is alive. But what about a virus? It's basically just some genetic code wrapped in a protein shell. On its own, it can't do anything. It's completely inert, dead, really, until it hijacks a living cell's machinery. So here's the question. If just having the blueprints for life isn't enough to be alive, then what is that mysterious spark? What truly separates life from everything else?